Let's do what we can do together. Let's get that piece of legislation agreed upon, that we can start working the framework of that and putting it together. That's going to take a little while.
This week, we're breaking down the climate provisions of the Democrats' reconciliation bill. And with us to help figure out what's going on with this somewhat complicated issue is Zach Coleman, Politico's climate and energy reporter. Zach, thank you so much for helping us figure this out.
Yeah, well, let's try.
Let's just start with, for people who haven't been paying too close attention, why are we still talking about the reconciliation bill?
It's a huge package of everything, really. I mean, it's social spending, it's family spending, it's climate provisions, and it is potentially the biggest climate investment in American history.
So the last time they did this, it was cap and trade in the Obama era, and that sort of all ended in tears. Fast forward to 2021, when the White House and Democrats were designing the policies that they wanted in the reconciliation bill. What were the universe of ideas that at the start of this debate that they had to choose from?
One of the things that came up was carbon taxes in that 11-year interregnum between then and now. We've now seen progressives turn against that. What you now see from the progressive left is an emphasis on standards, investments, and justice. The idea is basically set stringent environmental standards to make sure that there is a federal baseline for how polluting industries are supposed to act.
What are the big policies that would really drive emissions down that the Democrats used as the starting point?
One of the biggest policies here is an extension of clean energy tax credits and electric vehicle manufacturing credits. Another way the Democrats are approaching this is through a methane polluter fee. Methane is the second most responsible greenhouse gas.
And then there was a major policy to go after the electricity sector. What was the plan there?
Yeah, and that was called the Clean Electricity Performance Plan. And I say was because at this point it seems
I was just going to say, you're using past tense.
At this point it seems that it might be over with.
Manchin announced his opposition to a central program in President Biden's clean energy plan that would replace coal and gas-fired power plants with wind, solar, and nuclear energy.
As things stand right now, is there someone you could point to as a political winner in terms of this debate?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, it's really Senator Joe Manchin. He gets to dictate essentially the entire climate provisions in this reconciliation plan. I mean, he comes from West Virginia. It's a coal and natural gas centric state where there is some understandable anxiety about a swift transition to clean energy. But here you have maybe the most powerful man in the Senate in the most affected state being able to basically exercise veto power over all the climate provisions. And he is using that authority.
If West Virginia had to move away from coal, which everyone I think agrees that they do, right? What happens in that state?
Yeah, I mean, coal is on the decline in West Virginia and everywhere else in the country. And the state knows that. I've done many reporting trips to the state. Bottom line is there are structural declines for coal for any number of reasons, whether there's mechanization of the workforce or harder to access coal or environmental regulations, or even just the fact that wind and solar are getting cheaper relative to coal.
It sounds a little bit like what Manchin says.
The transition's happening. And that clean energy standard, they want to spend billions of dollars to have utilities do what they're already doing. Makes no sense to me to pay a utility to do what they're going to do anyway.
Does he have a point there, or is he just being kind of cute with the facts?
In West Virginia, their state utility commission just approved the extension of 3 power plants through 2040. So that timeline does not match up with the best available science. So it is true that this transition is happening, but there are states in this country that are not aligned with the best science. We need to do this at a scale that is fast enough to give us a fighting chance. And a lot of the science says that that is a 50% reduction by 2030.
Where do you think things are headed?
If the Clean Electricity Performance Plan is dead, as we seem to believe it is, then Democrats and environmental activists might have to be okay with just what's left. You're talking about still $450 billion worth of climate spending that could do a good deal to deploy more clean energy and reduce carbon emissions. The problem with that, though, is the analysis shows that it wouldn't be enough to reach President Joe Biden's goal of cutting carbon emissions 50 to 52% below 2005 levels by 2030. And that's the thing that he's promised to the world. And he's showing up in Glasgow, Scotland in November for global climate talks. And if he doesn't have some agreement in place that can get him to that target, then there's going to be questions about U.S. climate credibility on the world stage, too.